Today we're going to talk about lifting equipment. It's a topic I haven't really gotten into much in the past. I get a ton of questions about it. I am not really a gear whore, so I'm not the guy that's going to pour over 37 different types of wraps and tell you what I think the best value is, but I do lean very heavily on equipment for competitive purposes. A lot of my performances have come to depend on the exact type of equipment that I'm using, so I'm going to break that down for you guys, tell you some of the things I like with regards to elbow sleeves and support for all the pressing events that I have to do and excel at. And we're gonna break down who it's appropriate for and who it may not be appropriate for. Now, there's really only a couple reasons that you would wear elbow sleeves. You want warmth, comfort. It feels good to get heat in your elbow when you're pressing. If you have a little bit of tendinopathy, you guys know that it sucks. Not only is it painful, but that sensation will actively trigger your body to limit force output. So if you're benching, you come down, and right on the way up, you get that little pinch. Physiologically, your body is actually inhibiting force production to try to keep you safe, which is really annoying when you're trying to get that next PR, which is obviously more important than the health and security of your joints. So we find ways to get around that. Heat, a little bit of compression goes a long way. The other reason is performance, which is what a lot of competitive sleeves and wraps are oriented around. What the average person is going to use for a general bro session is going to be a lot different than what the competitors are going to use when they're trying to set a world record or when they're trying to hang in their highly competitive division. So now we're talking about augmenting your numbers, and we're in a completely different category there. Now, what sleeves are not for? They are not to mask injury. I know I talked about tendinopathy and how it can help with certain overuse issues, little aches and pains, but some people will use them as a crutch to where you physically can't lift without them. And if you just slather enough horse liniment on your joints and then cover it with tight elastic fabric, you can generate enough heat and the capsaicin in the liniment can just start cooking your skin. And the only thing you feel is your skin burning and you can just push through it. That's not great. It's one thing to get everything lubed up and moving. It's another thing to use this as a crutch to be able to get through work that your body is telling you maybe you shouldn't be doing right now. It is a fine line to walk. The other thing it is not for is to try to arbitrarily bump up your lifts temporarily. First of all, you can only flip that card once. If you've been a raw lifter for a long period of time in the gym, not using any equipment, then all of a sudden you slap on a tight pair of sleeves and let's say you hit a 20-pound PR. Hey, that's great. Now, if you ever want to hit another 20-pound PR, you still have to get stronger. So I know it's tempting for some people to be like, oh, well, this is what I can lift now. What happens if I wrap myself up like a mummy and then just get a bunch of compression, see what I can do? It's tempting. I've been there. I get it. But that is a bad mindset to have. These are tools to be used. You want to be able to use them long term. Also, it's not guaranteed that any of you are going to actually be able to squeeze out a PR. We say that there's a certain amount of give, a certain amount of benefit to each of these. So a tight pair of sleeves, a competitive grade, let's say it gives 20 pounds, 30 pounds. That's what people say. It doesn't necessarily mean you throw it on and you immediately lift 20 or 30 more pounds. Most people are going to experience that they feel more confident and comfortable on their reps. So maybe you get a couple more reps on an AMRAP set. Maybe you do notice that as you get closer to those heavier weights, it moves a little bit faster, but it takes a while to work into them and really exploit it for the performance benefit. So it's not a great idea to just go out and splurge on a pair just because you want to lift 20 pounds more right now. Really quick, guys, I am making the hard trek to 100,000 subs. The number, it's just weird to say. I never thought I would be remotely close to this number. But I am trying to boost my subscribership. To do that, I've been putting out more content. I've been trying to engage with you guys more. So if you haven't, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you don't miss the videos I put out. I'm putting out 4, 5, sometimes 6 a week, so you don't want to miss those. I appreciate everybody's support. Thank you so much. It means the world. Now, the categories of lifters who are going to benefit from this, either for comfort and health or for performance and augmenting your lifts, it's going to boil down to basically 3 categories. You got your power lifters. Beautiful thing about being a power lifter is whatever fed you compete in is going to have a list of what is approved, and you're really just going to default to that. And there's plenty of reviews you can look at for the ones that are allowed in your specific federation, and they can give you insight into the pros and cons of each one. If you're a strongman, which is where I'm at, you're really just going to bias towards whatever gives you the most heavy duty amount of support. And that's what I have to worry about. But that becomes its own problem because you have to worry about getting them on. How long can you have them on for? And we'll get into that. And then the third category is going to be bodybuilders or recreational lifters. Basically anybody who isn't actively trying to compete in how much weight they can move. It's more just about training. So you're going to want to prioritize comfort, but also just a moderate amount of overload because it can still be beneficial, but you don't really have the need to go crazy. Now, elbow sleeves are kind of an odd duck because powerlifters are going to kind of fall into that category because they can't use elbow sleeves anyways. You can wrap your knees or wear knee sleeves, but you can't wrap your elbows. So I don't know, you figure it out. But some powerlifters are going to like using some element of support on their elbows when they get through their bench session, especially if you're going high frequency, you low bar squat a couple days a week, you bench a couple days a week, that can catch up to you and this can help. So the first brand or the first type of sleeve you're going to find are neoprene sleeves. Now you can find the low grade ones at any sporting aisle, Big Five, Dick's Sporting Goods. You can even find them at Walmart. The really low grade thin neoprene ones, they feel kind of a little plasticky. It's not really a really nice texture. The way it slides up, it's like feels like dried out seal skin or something. I hate neoprene sleeves. They stink. Oh my God, if you don't wash them regularly, the way they hold on to stink is just, it's next level. But the really cheap ones still provide a good amount of warmth. And sometimes for those little bits of tendinopathy, just that little bit of squeeze can be enough to augment your workouts. It's psychosomatic, just feeling the compression. It doesn't actively add pop, but just feeling that little bit of compression can help out on some movement. So that might be your best bet to start out to see if you even like things on your elbows to begin with, especially if you are using liniment, if you're using like Icy Hot or Deep Blue or some type of liniment to help with joint issues. Those sleeves just bake it in. It heats up the area much faster so you can get to work much faster. The next step above that, it's going to be the neoprene competitive grade sleeves. SBD started doing it. I think Mark Bell had his brand put out some where basically they took neoprene but just made it really thick. And they tried to basically get as much pop out of neoprene as you could in sleeve divisions and powerlifting. But as far as your elbows are concerned, the rigid neoprene sleeves, personally, I'm not a fan of. They don't give as much pop. They're not, I don't think, quite as easy to get on, and they stink. So it's like you're either going to stay in that comfort route, which I think is a sleeve that should be lighter, more about keeping heat in, giving a little bit of compression, and really easy to get on and off. That's a big one. If you're going performance route, basically if you're a strongman, you're going to bias towards something heavy duty, and you're going to leave behind the neoprene elbow sleeves altogether, especially when you're getting ready for a competition. So these are the sleeves that I have. Once we get above that level of neoprene competitive sleeves, Inzer, this is the first level. These are actually going to be pretty heavy duty compared to anything that you've experienced if you've just been using neoprene elbow sleeves. I really like these mainly because they're adjustable. Now, I had a hell of a time sizing them right. I do recommend if you ever go to a Fit Expo, they always have a booth where they're selling these, and trying it on in person is always the best bet. But it took me a couple times to get the sizing just right. My arms aren't as big as I thought they were. But all you do, you slide it up, and they got 3 nice little straps right here. It goes on super easy. It's not cutting off circulation, but even without being tight, even without being cranked down, this gives a nice amount of compression. It's not so much that I can't clean, like if I'm doing an axle clean, but it's still enough that I get a good amount of pop. So it's a nice middle ground. These are generally my go-to sleeves. I've had these for a while. I really like them. They do the job. And the thing is, they're super comfortable. They're super convenient. They don't go overkill on the overload, but you're still going to notice your pressing sessions go a bit better. The fact you can get them on and off easily is probably the biggest selling point, especially, I mean, if you're not competitive. You don't want to have these sleeves you have to rip on and off after every set because it's cutting off your circulation. You want something that you can walk around it. Now, a con of these is, for me, they were hard to get really tight because of the way they grab. So I've used these for circus dumbbell press, where I would go down to the dumbbell and it would slide down my arm, and I had to either ditch it or pull it back up. So it's kind of a pain in the ass. But these are still very good. I highly recommend the Inzer sleeves. It's really a medium amount of pop much more than you're going to get out of the lower grade stuff. That is where you're starting to get more towards performance and overload, a little less to just being there for comfort and heat. So the next step up, and this is where we get into really deep competitive territory. These are Cerberus knee sleeves. Now, knee sleeves and elbow sleeves are essentially the same. Length just tends to differ. They can be used interchangeably. You just have to mind the sizing because sizing is going to be a bit different. But I initially got these for my legs. I realized I hate having them on because while they're tight, they cut off your circulation. It's a big problem for any type of really tight competitive sleeve. And I don't want to have to pull them up and down. I'd rather just put on a light wrap every set because it's faster. So for my elbows, I started using these. And these come on pretty easily. Takes a little bit of elbow grease to get them up. And these actually don't cut off my circulation that much. That's a sizing, I'm sure. But I can leave these on. These do give a nice amount of compression. These do keep my elbows absolutely hot. This is where we're starting to get into multiple layers. This is where we're starting to use really exploiting the elastic fabric. It's different than what you're going to see in the neoprene sleeves, or if they do make anything out of a tighter canvasy material. Now, getting into the real heavy duty ones. This is where it's just performance for the sake of performance. My buddy James Morley, who's a client of mine, fantastic middleweight strongman out of Ireland. He had his buddy who owns this brand reinforced. He had his buddy send me a pair of these, and he specifically was gonna send me elbow sleeves. So then in the mail, I get these and they're knee sleeves. And I was kind of like, did they mix it up? And it's, no, these are specifically used because they cover more of the arm. And like I said, they can be used interchangeably. So when I got these on, immense amount of pop. Now the problem is, this is where you start to run into problems with really heavy duty competitive gear. You get really tight deadlift suits or you get sleeves like this, you need help getting them on. Well, I don't like to rely on other people to get my gear on because there's enough to worry about with timing. When it's time to go, I want to be able to go. So I had to figure out how to get these on myself. My first workout, I probably burned 500 calories just trying to figure out how to get these on. I was a little sweaty. I was having trouble yanking it up. I wasn't strong enough to pull it up with one arm. It was an absolute disaster. And I almost gave up on them. I almost thought, when my wife's around, I'll use them for big attempts, but that's about it. Then I played around with it, looked at some videos, and I figured out what I was doing wrong. With these, and thank God I figured out how to get these on quickly. With these, the best thing you can do is to turn them inside out. Let's see if I can do this reasonably fast. So I turn them inside out, and here, because this is like double or triple ply, this is a lot of plies of elastic. Then I pull apart right here, make space for my arm. And what I do, I find the seam. So this little tag I look for, I like this being on the back of my arm. So I grab this like a handle, okay? Wedge my hands in there, put my hand through, and then right there, it pulls up so much easier. And then I can just kind of work it around. Now, because these do exactly what I want them to, it covers most of my arm, gives this immense amount of compression. Like, I don't even think I could clean an axle on this unless I like leaned way back to catch it. But for the Viking press I'm getting ready for a dumbbell press, glorious. This is amazing. So this is gonna directly augment my presses. This is probably gonna give me 5%, maybe a little bit more. It's gonna allow me to rep more. I'm gonna feel more stable through my entire setup, through that drive. So it has a very good overload benefit. So all trainees can benefit from that to some degree, but especially if you compete, you wanna really leverage that to your advantage. Only problem is they are a little harder to get on. Now I figured out how to get them on by myself, but already my hands turning kind of dusty. I really have to like emphasize keeping my arms straight. If I'm getting my wraps on, if I'm fidgeting with my belt, that work starts to cause a little bit of burning in my arm. Not really ideal. So these are great for my heaviest attempts. If I'm going for like all-time PRs, these are great for competition. I'm getting ready for a Viking press and a dumbbell press, so I'm gonna use this in both. I get them on, I get through my run, I get them off. This is not gonna be something you guys wanna do if you're just casual lifters. You don't wanna have to take these on and off in between every heavy set. Even if you don't like having them on the entire run, you're still gonna want something you can get in and out of pretty easily. And that brings me to elbow wraps, which don't really see elbow wraps anymore. I remember buying elbow wraps some 15 years ago because I was in that stage where I just wanted to see if I could bench a little more if I bound up my elbows. And I bought the Harbinger ones. They were just white, just like the knee sleeves. They weren't any different. They had a little patch of Velcro so you could wrap your elbow and then Velcro it on. The thing is, wraps provide much more focused compression than sleeves potentially can. Wraps are in kind of a weird middle ground. I think that's why you don't really see them. Powerlifters obviously can't use them. That's getting closer to like equipped lifting. Even equipped lifters can't wrap their elbows. So it's like a weird, specific, different type of overload. It works way against general development, which is what most bodybuilders and recreational lifters are going to want. It's more of just like an ego thing, because those will likely augment your pressing ability, your bench and overhead press ability immediately. I remember seeing Larry Wheels bench with wraps. I don't know if he was associated with that company or if he sold them, but I mean, they can be used. I would just strongly recommend using them sparingly. Don't make it a staple every single time you press. Once you're dealing with that much compression, the wraps are doing a lot of the work. And then as you get better, you end up like learning how to exploit them. So more of your pressing strength is going to fall on whether or not you have a good tight wrap on your elbows or not, which for most people, it's not something you really want to do. You want to have kind of a well-rounded base. You want to have all your weak points addressed. You don't just want to default to whatever equipment just arbitrarily allows you to lift. So for you casual guys, you guys that are new, you're just starting out, your numbers aren't quite competitive yet, I recommend erring on the side of a lighter elbow sleeve, something like neoprene. Just benefit from the little bit of warmth and compression, but get your basic amount of strength up. Get to a minimum standard before you really start looking at ways to use overload and to exploit that. As you get more competitive or your numbers get a little bit better, you'll benefit more from this stuff. You'll benefit from temporary periods of overload. You can look into stiffer versions that you can get more out of on your heavier, most strength-specific attempts. But that's the thing, you're not doing strength-specific training when you're new, which is why you should just be focusing on base. Just build that base. If you do compete at all, if you've already thrown your hat in the ring and you have dedicated periods of prep that you're going through where you're getting ready for these big attempts, then by all means, go ahead and level up and get something a little more sturdy. I really like these Cerberus elastic sleeves. These are really good. And for you nutcases where you're trying to get the earth over your head, where you're trying to bench press 1,000,000 pounds, check out Reinforced. I will link the Instagram page and the store in the description. Like I said, these are really good. These were a treat. This was a surprise. I came home one day, like I said, my buddy James sent these out to me. I threw them on. These and the wraps are just really good, really stiff. Big fan of these, so check that out. So let me know, guys, anything I didn't answer, anything I didn't get to, put that in the comments. Also, let me know if you like the equipment discussion. This is something I put off for a long time because I think there's a lot of unnecessary fixation on equipment. They're tools to be used. These are by no means the secret to leveling up. These are just things that can add a little bit to your training, but they're not worth obsessing over. But I can give a little bit of insight. If you guys want me to cover knee wraps, belts, straps, things like that, I can go over that as well. So let me know what you guys think. Don't forget to check out my Patreon. I am uploading daily videos for all of my training, all of my contest prep. I'm going to Worlds in 3 days. I don't know if I look skinny. I feel skinny. I've been dieting for a month. I will make sure to post the link to the live stream so you can watch me and like 400 other strongmen lift in Daytona Beach. But all of my prep for that on Patreon. It's the easiest way to get in contact with me, easiest way to ask questions. So go ahead and check that out as well. Thank you so much for your support, guys. Until next time, this is Bromley. I'll see you.